Adding creativity with fog is our topic today on Luminar Coffee Break. Let's see what we can accomplish in 10 minutes or less, starting now. Well, hello everyone, glad you can make it. So our topic today is about adding a little creativity with fog. Now there's two ways, of course, we could do that. During the actual photo shoot with a fog machine, or I'm going to show you a little cool fog in a can that they produce, or we can do it after the fact with the fog and misting tool. I prefer to do it in the camera, but keep in mind this isn't just a portrait session, because this is something that for those that like to do still life at home, you can get this fog in a can and do some really cool creative photos with it. So let me dive right in. Here is the fog in a can. Let me show you right here. Right there, look at this. And look what that does. And as long as you backlight it properly, it looks so cool. All right? Now outside, they say you could use it outside, but honestly, it wasn't as powerful. So in this case here, there's Rick Freeman. Here's little Rick. Over here, we end up using a fog machine. All right? So let me get to the image I'm working with. One moment. All right, yeah, Zoom likes to have fun with me. There we are. All right, let's take this picture of Lewis right here. All right. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire edit because I really want to focus strictly on the fog area here. So what we're going to do is this. Let me zoom back out. There we go. And I notice whenever you guys are chatting, that's what's messing up my screen. So there we are. Let me get back to Lewis. And I'm going to right click. And actually, let's go to edit. And so here's the image before and then after. Let me reset everything. So look, that looks good, but it just doesn't look complete. We want to make this fog more pronounced. So what we're going to do, one moment. There we go. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to start, and we're going to revert back to the original. And in doing that, I think it's going to also revert my crop. Let's give it a chance. There we go. So here we are. Now, let's start with the crop tool first. No matter how hard I tried, this right up in here, this the light on the helmet, it just wasn't cooperating. So we're going to fix that real quick. And the way we're going to fix it is by cropping it out. And notice what I did here was we had a light coming up on top to light him, two on the sides to light the sides, and then there's this reflector in the front, and that's what's going to bounce light into his face so we can see him. Now for a football player, his number is extremely important. So we want to make sure the number is seen. Now we can cut it off just a little bit, as long as you can still tell he's number 32. Right about here. All right, that looks good. All right, now just come over here quick. We'll do a couple settings just to get it, just to develop the image overall. Of course, we want to add the dramatic tool. Looking already, that's starting to bring out the fog a little bit more. Let's bring that out a little. And I want to dial the brightness back just a touch. Good. Now the saturation, yeah, They're right about here. That looks much better. All right. So already it's looking good, but we can make it look even better. So I really want to add lots of detail to that fog. So let's come up here to the Structure AI. And notice we start adding that Structure AI. Look at that. Look how the cloud or the fog really starts to pop. So let's zoom in a little bit more. Ooh, I like that a lot. Now, with doing that, I'm going to boost it up just a little bit. Ooh, look at that. So boost is going to intensify that fog even more. Good. Now, I like the color, but let's change it. So let's just focus on the fog itself. So we can come down, and there's a couple ways we could do it. We can go through the tone, we can go through color harmony, but let's try tone first. So with tone, apply saturation. Now it's going to apply to the entire image, but we just want around that fog. And I kind of, personally, I just like blue. I like the blue look of the fog. So that was in the shadows. Now on the highlights. Let's do the same thing and add more blues right about there. Great. Now, the brush tool, decide is there more to paint in or paint out? Well, there's less to paint in, so I'm going to choose to paint in the fog, paint in the color onto the fog. If it were the opposite, then I would choose paint out, and I would select the areas I don't want the fog or the areas for that blue to appear. Now, I am going to come around the arm slightly because that's what the light would do. So bring it in. That's it. And again, come around. Good. Just like that. Great. Good. There. Now that we have the fog painted in, we can lock that in. And there's a few other things I would do to the image, but for now, let's make it easy and come to the vignette tool. Choose the subject here. Dial it in. And I want to add a little inner light. Yeah, there we go. Apply it. And one last. Actually, you know what? I don't even need it. Good. I was going to use the relight tool to tone down the ball a bit, but we're fine right about here. So now, at this point, we got everything looking decent, the way we want it. Emphasis is on Lewis, his number. We could lighten this or darken this area back here a bit to match this area here. To do that, again, we'll come to the develop tool, drop the exposure, and right about there is good. And then just mask in or paint in the area back here that we want darker. There we go. And now it matches. And we're set. All right. So here's before. And here's after. And as I mentioned earlier, a fog machine is great for outdoors. Like when we did these shots out here. The issue, though, of course, when you're dealing with fog is to make sure that if you're going to do anything outdoors like this, that you contact your local fire department and just tell them, hey, we're going to be dealing with fog, or there's not going to be a fire, just to let you know. So this way they don't panic if somebody calls in and says they've noticed smoke, in the woods. Now, if you're going to use this on your own to where you're doing it in the house, I recommend using this fog in a can, because that's going to be some really cool techniques you could do, if you want to deal with flowers or still life, or if there's something, let's say, I've seen people do this inside of a barn, to where they just sprayed the fog all in the air and just let it fester, and then took beautiful shots with the sun shining through. All right? So there we are, Carl. Let's open it for discussion.
Okay, if you have questions, please go ahead and raise your hand or push them into the chat, and we will address them as they come in.
Hey, Vanelli,
Yes.
on that last picture that you just worked on with that one fire, can you go back and work on taking the fingertips out of off the ball?
Yes. Remember what Carl was saying. I was focusing on the fog. But yes, but we can save that for the Ask Me Anything question.
Later on.
Yep. But yes,
I wasn't there. I'm sorry.
yeah, but that would definitely be something. That would definitely be something. We would focus on in here, and I'd probably add a little more light to the face and so on. All right, next question.
Fog looks good.
Good. I mean, can you see how you could use the fog in different projects? Give some examples on what you could do with the fog. Some of my still life people.
Use it for ghosting.
So Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question on the use of the fog itself. If you used it indoors, how long?
Oh, God, yeah.
Last? Will you get several minutes out of it, or?
Yeah, so we typically got about 7 or 8 shots out of it, depending on how. In fact, let's see. Yeah, so if you noticed, this is Lewis here, and that was his in the background. Yeah, so she had 2 cans, and she sprayed them quickly all over the place, and then got out of there quick because it does rise. So we found that if you went too low, it just wasn't the same effect. Where I thought it would rise gradually and you get more shots out of it, but no. So we experimented, and that's the best you could do. Now, we did have an air conditioner on, so that could have been one of the reasons why I was blowing all over the place. So that's something you'd experiment with. But this is non-toxic. So, I mean, Lewis is right there, and you don't have... Yeah, some of the shots, look at... Here's his buddy. You could tell Andrew's actually covered in the fog itself. So, and by the way, this young man, his grandmother passed away. His grandmother passed away, and that was his tribute to her, which I thought was pretty cool. He was the one who stole the sledgehammer from next door and did the shoot.
Let's go to RG next, if you don't mind. Go ahead, RG.
Yeah, do you always have to separately light the fog in order for it to show up?
Yes. Well, let me take that back. If you front light it, you're not going to get the same effect. So fog and rain and water is typically really good if you side light or backlight it. So in this case here, a backlight, it just makes the fog look more pronounced. So without that light, it's just going to blend into the background.
Good, thank you.
Okay, and then next is Bruce.
My question got answered, and I'm trying to figure out how to lower the freaking hand.
Oh, okay, I got it. All right, Simon, go ahead, please.
Yeah, if anything, it was just an observation. When I've used fog in the studio before, I tell you what, I think it's more economical to buy a fog machine if you're going to use it inside than it is to buy the cans, because they're actually not very expensive at all. They're about £20. I'm not sure what that is in dollars, but you know they're readily available on eBay. The other thing is it's about building up the fog over a period of time. So I've seen people just like let these things rip, you know, whilst the shoot is going, and before you know it, you've got a room full of smoke. The best thing to do is just to use the fog kind of sparingly, because it will build up for a little while. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, depending on the size of your room, I mean, could you imagine if you did that in your living room? You know, if you put the fog in your living room for, you know, portraits, if you're doing a still life, flowers and stuff, oh my Lord, your whole house can be filled. Now our studio was about 3,200 square feet, so it was a pretty big studio. It was really big. So therefore, we were able to get away with fog machines, but we would always open a door because it was one of those things where in a studio or a closed environment, if it you have in other words, if you commit to doing fog, you have to stick to doing fog. We had a second studio that was just a small portrait studio. There was only I think 1,000 square feet. Oh my Lord, trying to do a fog in there was no way. We had to put a fan by the door to suck the fog out of the room, you know, once we did it. Otherwise, we were waiting a good 15 minutes for the fog to go away. So, but with a can, I found it was easier. Like you said, it is more expensive, but in my opinion, it's more convenient. Now, the hardship is you can't travel with it. Thanks so much for joining us, and I'll see you at the next coffee break.